about the refuge prayer for the beginning, etc., because we're going to actually make our minds into refuge, you see, transform minds into refuge. So we don't necessarily have to say the prayer all the time. So take a comfortable posture where your back is straight, shoulders are level. Keep your hands on your lap. The traditional way is to keep your right hand resting on the left. The thumbs are touching at the level of the navel. And it's up to you if you want to close your eyes or keep your eyes open. And just make sure you're completely relaxed. You go through your posture. So with this mental factor of awareness, a part of our mind, we can actually take awareness to any part of our body. And we concentrate, for example, on the top of the head. And we become aware of all the different sensations that are at the top of the head, the crown. And then bring it gently down across the face, starting with the forehead, relaxing the area between the eyebrows. Coming around the eyes. So go deeply into the eyes. Sometimes we hold a lot of tension there. And then also with awareness, we relax that kind of tension that we find. And then gently come down around the face, the lips, the jaws, the mouth. Down into the throat. Go across the back of the shoulders. Down the spine. And becoming aware of the sensations of contact with your body, with the chair or the cushion you're sitting on. Down into the legs. Into the feet. So paying attention there, especially the feet. Ground yourself, become aware of all the different sensations in the feet. And coming back up into the legs, the hips, coming across the front of the body, lower abdomen, diaphragm, the chest. Go across the shoulders and come down the arms. And again, rest your awareness in the hands. Again, feel the different sensations between the hands. And also if you have tension in the palms, etc., you begin to soften and relax any tension that you find. And then come back up the arms, the shoulders, back of the neck, back of the head, back to the crown. Now hold your awareness on the whole body, head to toe. And now concentrate on the mind itself. So try and go into this kind of spacious nature of the mind, like the blue sky. Open up the mind. And checking up this phenomena called the mind, which can perceive, cognize. So this phenomena has its own main substantial cause. So we check carefully, the mind comes from its own continuity, from its own previous moments of mind. So we trace it back to last night, yesterday, the day before, the week before, and slowly trace it back through your years, your youth, childhood. It almost seems like a different life. Then imagine yourself as an infant, and then in the womb, and then where? So try to imagine where you could have been last life. Because the mind and body are completely different phenomena. Your mind wasn't produced by the fetus, so it had its own continuity, so its mind came from different moments. So take your mind back to the in-between state before this life. Imagine where you may have been, probably a human. Could be good conditions. You created virtue that now has resulted in you having this human life. So practicing ethics and generosity. You may have been Buddhist. And go through that life. Also back to that life's childhood, infant, in the womb. Imagine the life before that. So maybe also a human. But in that life, maybe some negativity is done, some harm, and that's not being purified, that's still in our consciousness, can ripen any time. And try to imagine to go to a life before that. So this time perhaps a different form. So another form we can see, another realm we can see with our eyes is the animal realm. So imagine we may have been a dog, a wild animal. So again, see how it's like to be one of those particular animals. Just to eat, we have to harm, to kill. Strong attachment to food, so you know how dogs are, constantly running after food. So instead of looking at it like a film, we have to actually imagine being that being. Imagine being with no arms, no legs, sliding on the ground. Whoever sees us has such fear, would want to kill us immediately. And again, to survive, we have to kill ourselves. We have to actually take other beings' lives. And then there's the different realms we cannot see. So those who have that strength of mind can imagine being even worse realms like the hungry ghost realm, the hell realms. And that kind of intense heat, hunger and thirst doesn't just finish like it finishes in the human realm. It lasts for years and years and years. And then we come back to our own form, sitting here comfortable, woken up in a human body, a mind which knows what's a good action, a bad action. How incredibly fortunate we are to have this life. I think of the past lives and all those karma we've created in those past lives are still ready to be ripened, unless they're purified. So looking for some means, some protection. We go for refuge, the Buddha, the Dharma and the Sangha. The ones that we can really trust in our lives to protect us from those kind of dangers. So now we imagine the space in front of us, the Buddha himself. It's a living being, not a flat picture or a statue. It's a living being full of light. Smiling that we generated this faith in him and the methods he's teaching us. So we take our refuge, the first level of wanting to adopt the 10 virtuous actions, wanting to abandon all the 10 non-virtues and any harmful behavior. So that will take us to happy rebirths, human, God realms. And thinking the nature of even those kind of rebirths are still pervaded by suffering because of having the contaminated aggregates, the body and mind. All of those rebirths will one day finish. And generating that second type of refuge, wanted to be free from samsara completely. Putting our trust in living in perfect ethics, generating concentration, and that mind of wisdom realizing the emptiness or absence of this independent self. And then we put our parents next to us, our mother to the left, our father to the right, our friends behind us, the difficult people in front of us. And try to imagine every living being around us, all the different realms. So how could we just work for our own liberation and peace when all these beings are in the same predicament? They're all in the nature of suffering. And we try to remember in all these past lives, we've been connected many, many times. We think especially how they've been our mother, that closeness they've given us, the kindness they've shown us, so many lives, each of these beings. So how could we leave them behind? So we generate the mind wishing to take all these beings into a full enlightened state. And to do that, we need to have enlightened ourselves, to free ourselves from all the afflictions, all the stains, imprints of the afflictions. So we generate compassion, bodhicitta. We give up the idea of our own liberation. Just a direct antidote to our self-cherishing mind. And then we engage in the six perfections, the main causes for the form bodies of the Buddha, and we generate that wisdom realizing emptiness, which are the main cause for the omniscient mind. So then try to think over these points and then settle that mind into this form of refuge, going from the initial fear of the lower realms, then fear of samsara itself, then there's a fear for all sentient beings who are trapped in samsara. And that mind becomes stronger in terms of no matter how many lives it will take, how difficult it will be, this is where I have to go. These are my main practices. Okay, so with that motivation, we're trying to find out what it means to be now Buddhist for those who want to take the actual precepts or refuge commitment. Let's try and find out what it means to be Buddhist. Of course, some of you've taken it, but then it's good to refresh a little bit what being Buddhist is. Okay, so Heather, if you can put the thing on, the main thing on, the commitments and benefits of refuge.
The slide that you sent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can talk you through some of the Okay, so let's recap. You know, what was the Buddha refuge? Because we have to know. When we say I'm going to refuge to Buddha, we have to know what is this being? Who was this being? What was the Dharma? What does that mean? You know, and the Sangha. What does that mean? So we've already been through that a little bit. It's always good to recap. So remember, there is a Buddha, the being. Like in the Pali tradition, there was this actually particular being who spent many, 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 many lives, exactly like we've just been kind of promising now, many lives I will practice to achieve the enlightened state. This being did that exactly that many lifetimes ago. He achieved that state as Prince Siddhartha, the last life he had 2,500 years ago, and having achieved that enlightened state. So what is an enlightened state? A mind completely free from every affliction and every stain of the afflictions. So nothing left, right? And then from that mind, he was able to have all knowledge of all phenomena. Of course, it also means everything exists, but specifically everything that we need to practice to get to that enlightened state. Yes, and he was able to teach us that. So that's the Dharma. And that became, of course, a form of text. And then, because people practiced what he taught, it became what we call Dharma realizations, right? And that is what protects us, okay? And the Sangha, remember, of course, is the beings who are trying to emulate or on the same path that the Buddha gave. So normally it's what we call the conventional Sanghas, any monks or nuns, because generally speaking, they're supposed to be more serious in their practice. It's up to how you view them, because they've taken some commitments, right, for life commitments, and then it's like, okay, they're the main ones. But the kind of remember from last time, the real ones we trust is a person, any person, monk, nun, layperson, who has realized for the first time directly what we call this absence of this self and phenomena. So absence of an independent intrinsic being, and also the phenomena outside, including the aggregates and all the phenomena around. Nothing exists in kind of a findable, ultimately findable way. So when they realize that directly, that's when they start to first cut the roots, the seeds of the afflictions. So then they're really trustable, valid beings, right? Until then, of course, normally the Sangha, we're trying to change our minds, we're not like, we put the robes on, we're Buddhas, we're trying to go that way, right? So it's difficult. So of course, because we're practicing more seriously, we actually, we're hitting the afflictions more directly. So of course we have a little bit more stable mind, so kind of we can trust. Because normally, when when we lay, we're kind of taking refuge in all kinds of other stuff, right? So as a monk, we're supposed to not take refuge so much in the external things, right? We're going more in the mind now. So we work on them, we have more practice to work on the mind. So then we have hopefully reduced more of our afflictions, so we can be trustable. So in that way, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, right? So once you take that refuge commitment, so normally you take it with somebody, a being, a Lama, a teacher who gives you the actual refuge ceremonies. You just repeat these verses after them. So then it becomes more strong, see, much more strong than thinking, well, I'm a Buddhist because I believe in that path and I believe the Buddha existed. I believe there is this a goal called liberation and enlightenment. Yes, that's possible. I know the method for it, and I'm using that method. It's true, but then it's stronger when you actually taken the commitments from somebody, right? That's when the refuge precepts start, because they're almost like a transmission. It's like when you take the minor precepts, so and the lay vows, it comes from a being, right? It's not like there's some substance coming from a being, but you generate it within your own mind due to your wish to have those vows, and due to the ceremony, there's vows are generated in your mind. So don't think it's coming from the teacher or something, because some people have the idea, like especially monks and nuns vows, when you take it from, I don't know, His Holiness the Dalai Lama or somebody, so something's coming from them to you, and it's not like that. It's because we're having this strong idea of renunciation, we know what the path is, and that commitment, the vows are generated in our mind. Right? Then the actual refuge ceremony starts, okay? Then you repeat this formula, and then from there, actually, you're even given a name, sometimes. Very good, Anthony, very, very nice. So, I remember when I took refuge with a Lama called Tenzin Gendun. He was one of the teachers of Lama Zopa. I remember when I was in Dharamsala at that time, and I was a layperson, and I met Buddhism kind of in Tushita Dharamsala. It was like, it just blew me away. I was like, wow, the Lama used to come and teach on the lower realms, and It's like this, and this kind of action will take you there, and they close their books and they walk off. I thought, wow, if that's true, I really have to do something with my life. Right? So then I was, first I must take refuge first. Right? So when I went to see him, he said, well, he wasn't like, yeah, fantastic. He said, you check out well what refuge is. I thought, I was a bit disappointed. I thought, well, he'd be like, give it to me straight away. Just no, you think about what refuge actually means, yeah, because it's a life commitment. It's not like some other trip you get into. It's really think. Well, I have to know this is my goal. What is the Buddha? What's the Dharma? What's Sangha? I kind of had a vague idea, but then I had to like study a bit more to understand what does not just Buddha the being, but the Buddha state. What is that? And how do you get there? The Dharma that we were talking about, the Dharma thing, well, where does it come? It's not just having a text and reading it. It's reading it and then putting it into your mind. Then the mind transforms. Then you're protected, you see. So that's the Dharma. And the Sangha, of course. Sangha has some trouble because, because of course, I mean, I was brought up in a Christian tradition, right? So I didn't have so much kind of faith in the great, yeah, the Sangha. So of course I've seen the Sangha in Sri Lanka because I was brought up there, but I didn't really know what they were up to. Actually, I didn't really have a clue. They look kind of holy, they're walking around. And then I had my own idea what Sangha is also, because I thought all Sangha should be very tamed, subdued, walk without looking at either side, looking at the floor. So when I came to Dharamsala, I didn't see many monks like that. So I thought, that's funny. Are these really Sangha? Are they really practicing? I had a bit of doubt. Of course, we can't tell what's going on in their mind, just because of behavior. Of course, sometimes the behavior says what's going on in the mind, but who knows? Anybody, they could be renounced beings, really deep in their hearts, but they're joking and laughing and playing around, so it's okay, right? So then I had a little bit difficult, but I thought, yeah, I don't know who they are actually. So then the Sangha Refuge came. Also, when you see how they're talking, and they're always talking about kind of changing, transforming the mind. Although most of the time they're joking, the Tibetans are very relaxed way of practicing Dharma. Kind of, for example, they meditate on death and impermanence. They understand that this could be the last day, but they don't get frantic and neurotic like us. They say, "Okay, let's go and have a cup of tea." Because, well, they're very relaxed about it. Of course, this can happen. Doesn't mean you stop all activities. You can relax. Read a little bit more Dharma. You practice a bit more. You kind of go the other extreme. So yeah, says the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Yeah, so we kind of pinpointed those in the last few teachings, so we don't need to go so much into that. So yeah, so when you take the actual refuge vows, okay, so there's some things you try and abandon, and some things you try and adopt. So what you try and abandon is, for example, the first, taking ultimate refuge in worldly gods such as Brahma and so on. So why is that? So some of these gods, Brahma, Indra, Vishnu, who the Indian traditions say are liberated. Yeah. So in the way Buddha saw it, you see, from his clairvoyance, he could see they were not liberated. They had attained a kind of a realm which had a very, 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 very long life. So it's like since the Buddha's time, they're still around in that realm, right? But so they look like eternal. Right. So for some of these traditions, they think it's like liberation. You see, that's why for us, it's not in the Buddhist context. It's not what we call the third noble truth of the Four Truths, the true cessation. It's not a real true cessation. They have got rid of, not got rid of affliction, but they've subdued the affliction to such a level that they don't come out strongly like it comes for us. So it feels like a peace, like a liberation. But because the Buddha could see those realms eventually one day finish, you see, when the karma finished to be there, just like the karma finished for us to be in this human realm, right now we're in a fairly comfortable position as humans, it'll finish, 80, 90 years, something, it'll finish, definitely karma runs out, right? Then new karma ripens, and then we don't know where we go, right? So similar with these gold realms, they will definitely finish. And then also for their karma ripens, and then they will also go into different realms, which probably be lower realms, right? So it's difficult to see. So we don't take refuge in them because also some of these beings, we don't see them as so stable. So I don't know. I don't know how some of the shamans work, but it could be that some of the shamans are working with spirits. You know, some of the spirits in the Buddhist context they exist. You know, these earth spirits, water spirits, kind of in the space. You know, in forests and stuff. So they could be working with them. Some of the spirits have power. They can, for example, heal, or they can lead you a certain plant that's medicinal, whatever. But you see, what the thing is, because they're not stable in their minds, you know, they may get jealous, they may get upset, they may get angry. You know, if you go to another spirit, then this one gets annoyed. How can we go into that one? You should be coming to me. So then it's not stable. So they can harm. See, as well, they have the ability to help us, but they can also harm us. So they're not stable. So that's why we see the Buddha is the most stable one, because he's completely free from all these kind of afflictions and stains. No jealousy, no anger. You know, he's like remember one of the points of going for refuge to Buddha, that no matter if you harm or help him, he sees beings equally and wants to help and teach that person. He doesn't discriminate like, oh, this one's not giving stuff to me, so I'm not going to teach. It's not like that. So that's what the Buddha has seen as completely stable. So we go for refuge to Buddha, and not for beings, especially an ultimate refuge, meaning I'm going for that being, that spirit, to give me really whatever path that being is teaching. I'm going to follow those methods. Yeah. So then it comes back to also some methods that some traditions, maybe now it's still existing, like maybe in Nepal, India, I'm not sure, but Nepal I think still exists, where they sacrifice animals, you see. Like those kind of methods are used to saying it's a path to liberation. Yeah. For us, it's completely mistaken. How can a harming be a way to liberation? Yeah. So those methods are not used in the Buddhist tradition. So yeah, so that's like, for example, the second one, harming any being either directly or indirectly. Yeah, because again, some of those methods, some of those traditions are teaching methods which are not actually the way to liberation, but they say it is, and because of our confusion, we start to believe it. So that's really unfortunate. You know, imagine being born in one of those places and you grow up in that area, and that's it. You believe it. You don't have a doubt about if it's good or bad. Yeah? So we're incredibly fortunate. We're not in that kind of state of mind. You see. We're clear with what we see them, but we don't have to do that, you know. That, yeah. And the third thing is to entrust ourselves to keeping company with, uh, not to keep company with negative friends. We're trying to abandon that. So this is a bit of a tricky point. Yeah, what's a negative friend? You know, because it could be your mother or your father who are so materialistic. They think, oh, don't believe in that stuff. You know, it's okay to kill the mosquitoes now, no problem. You're not going to get any karmic retribution. Nothing coming from that. It doesn't exist. This stuff, you know. So normally, your mother is the most beloved person in your life, right? But now she's saying something to you which is against some of your principles, right? It's a bit tricky, right? Of course, because your mother or your father, you know, then you're patient with them, etc. But you don't go into their mindset, into their thinking, right? Because that can also happen if you stay a long time with them. You think, oh, yeah, because they were your main, how do you say, your main examples, right? Yeah, they looked after all this, and now they're going against what you believe, right? It's just a bit trickier. So of course, you know, these negative friends don't come with what they say, like horns on their head. Come with me, something like that. They're actually quite not. Some of them may be even Buddhist, actually. You know, saying, "Oh, you know, you don't need to do those kind of practices. Just kind of just watch the breath. That's enough. Just calm your mind. Yeah, this kind of selflessness thing. It won't help you right now because you don't understand it. Right? It's too difficult for you to understand. So just watch your breath and they'll calm you down. Of course, it does calm you down. Yeah, it doesn't cut to the root of all our problems. You see. So slowly, we have to go a little bit further than just being mindful or being peaceful, being meditations which are only kind of um, calming your mind, because of course a lot of us were looking for kind of a peace, right? And those meditations do help us get inner peace. But see, in terms of Lam Rim, the topics, some of them are not very nice to meditate on. You know, like I touched a little bit on this meditation where you go back into your last lives. Of course, you go back to your last lives when you're human. Very nice, you know, Egyptian princess or an Egyptian healer or shaman, or very nice. But you go a few more realms, you were, you know, I don't know, a tiger and dying of starvation in the forest. You know, it's not nice realms, right? And then, of course, worse, hungry ghosts. the hell rooms, and they're described in great details. If you want to meditate on it, you have a lot of stuff to meditate on. Right? You imagine it until it becomes alive in you. And they're not nice because it brings you fear. But if that fear is not there, you won't look for a real refuge. You see, you know? Imagine the real refuge comes from fear and faith. The first one is fear of low rungs. If you haven't done that meditation, which is not nice to do, you won't have that real fear, right? Then you look for a trust, a protection, and the three jewels, the qualities with three jewels, etc. Right? So yeah, somebody says, "Oh no, don't meditate on that. That's going to really upset your mind. It's not going to be." Of course, it's not relaxing. Of course, when you do it, some transformation takes place, right? And that leads to real refuge. Okay. So then, even you have to be careful what a negative friend is, right? Because they can take you a little bit away from what we're trying to do. So that's why sometimes the sangha. So hit me like a sangha, like a study group, and people who've been in the Dharma a long time with the FPMT. They're the Tibetan tradition, and they help you because it's a particular way of meditating. You see these analytical meditations. Some traditions don't have it, and they kind of stay away from it, thinking all analytical meditation is useless because you just have to watch the mind, and that's it, as it is. So actually, some meditations, analytical ones, are extremely useful, and they lead you into the path. For example, meditation on selflessness is done analytically first until it becomes uncontrived. Then it becomes a direct realization, you see. So those beings that arrived in the path of seeing, what we call the Arya beings, they did it conceptually first, thinking about, well, how does the self exist? Does it exist like this? Like that? If it existed like that, what would be the consequence of that? And they think. Then you break through, you see. So some of these thinking meditations are actually quite useful. So yeah, we have to kind of be careful with the negative friends. So of course, then there's the negative friends who kind of taking us into wrong paths or taking us into old habits which we're trying to give up, so like that. So then we have to. I mean, you don't abandon them, but you just be careful how much time you spend with them. That's the thing, and trying to choose the friends well to support your practice, because of being refugees, so it's a new way of living. Yeah, it doesn't only mean you don't have to completely change your appearance like I did. I changed my appearance, but being Buddhist is an inner thing, right? It's an inner transformation. You don't have to go around wearing rosaries and putting around your neck and having amulets and stuff like that. That's all external stuff, right? Anything you've taken deep from your heart, the methods the Buddha gave, all the antidotes, is what you're going to use to pacify your mind. And that's an internal thing. It's a very secret thing, actually. So you don't have to go and advertise to everybody. Of course, people ask you, you can, without shoving it down their throats. You can say, yeah, but what I've learned from my practices. Sometimes you don't have to mention that you're practicing. Just I've learned from thinking like this, that this is a consequence. This might pacify your mind if you have a doubt about this, or you have some decision to make. You can give a means of how to subdue their minds a little bit like that. Okay, yeah. So try to keep calm. Don't hang around too much with negative friends. And then things we have to adopt, yeah. So seeing images of the Buddha as being an actual Buddha and pay respect to them. So yeah, nowadays it's quite. Actually, yeah, one thing I want to mention about the negative friends. I remember Robina coming here once to the center next door. She was giving a teaching, and one lady said, "Actually, since I've become Buddhist, Robina, I feel very lonely because the people who were normal, my friends, they don't want to hang out with me anymore, right? So I don't ever know about anybody else, basically." I can't remember what she answered, but she said actually that kind of means that they weren't your true friends. If they weren't really supporting you. Then you have to find people really supporting your new way of life. You see, just like when we have some addictions we're trying to give up, like the al- um, alcohol anonymous, no, the AA. So of course you need people who are also trying to give up, also trying to stay away. You don't hang around the people you used to drink with. That doesn't help you, right? So that's you have a new support group. You see, it's the same. And we're trying to change our lives drastically. We need a new support group. You see, that's good to somehow look for it. So that's why these Dharma centers are there, study groups are there. So what Rinpoche is doing, all Rinpoche's wishes, and all the people, of course, not You know, it's not like Rinpoche, oh, I'd like to have a study group in Santa Fe, I'd like to have this group. It wasn't coming, even Lama Yeshe, it wasn't like they wish. It was students who went to Kopan and who got so much benefit. And they said, wow, and how wonderful to bring this back to our own countries instead of, like, you know, because not everybody in the States is going to travel to Asia or you know, from Australians are going to travel. Well, Australians travel a lot actually. I mean, Australians and Americans and Europeans. Not everybody wants to go to Asia. So of course, how wonderful to bring Buddhism to them. So then the students themselves started centers up and the study groups up. So that's how it came about. That's amazing, you know. So now these little pockets of um, Buddhists are happening. Then that's your support group. You see, that's because you think in a new way. You need those people who are already thinking in that same way. You know, reincarnation, lower realms, future lives, ethics, all this. It's wonderful to have these people thinking in that way, and that's your support group. You see, so you hang around with them. Okay, then the images. So then, whatever image you see, yeah, whether it's made of plastic, resin, clay, wood, even if it's made badly, you know, you have to see that represents the Buddha, a living being. Not like, oh, well, I mean, I do that quite often because coming from the arts world, well, it's not. So I have to be careful what I say. I have to say, well, that's not. The artist was not so capable in making that. He wasn't so talented, you know. In that way, you kind of get around it, because in a way, you know, aesthetically speaking, there can be some Buddhas that attract you more than others, can inspire you more than others, okay, depending on how the artistry was done. So you have, like, there's an example in the Lamrim where a teacher was asked by one of his students, you know, with this Manjushri statue, is it kind of, is it good or bad? You hear that quite a lot if you go to Nepal and you go to all the statue shops. You go, what do you think about this? Is it a good one? Of course, you can't say that because they all emanate. They can all manifestations of Buddha, whether it's made of metal or you know clay or you know. So, but so our teacher replied, well, it's not good or bad, but the artistry, you know, the kind of workmanship, artist was kind of mediocre. We say like this, so you kind of get around it. So. That's why, you know, especially when you have you're trying to do karma body, you're trying to choose an image which is inspiring for you. So of course, the Buddha image that classically given is the one of the Bodh Gaya at the Bodh Gaya stupa, the one behind me. You can see me there at the top. So that image is quite often given because it's supposed to be one of the best kind of let's say formed in terms of aesthetic. And you look at, but of course, some people might not be inspiring. For some people, it's more the Chinese style Buddha or the Japanese face, you know, or the Theravada style Buddha. You know, so it depends. But when you look at it, that's the Buddha. It's not like, well, I'm not sure the Buddha look like. It's a Buddha. It's manifestation of Buddha. So again, you treat them with extreme respect, just like the Buddha was here. It's a bit like you know, I'm not sure if some of you've seen the relics of the Buddha. When the relics come into centers, it's like the Buddha is coming. Like people, you know, there's like music, and then it's like the relics are like in a suitcase, so they get put on their head. It's pretty heavy actually. You know, I think I carried it one. You put it on your head. You to walk into the temple with the relics, and the relics are placed, and then each one is taken out, and each relic was taken out and then blessed and put around and high up. So it's like that. The Buddha images, they represent the Buddha himself. You see. So we put them high. Yeah, we don't put them in toilets or on the floor. See, you see that quite often, you know, people, especially when you know you have the kind of antique stone heads of Buddhas and stuff, and you see them, you know, they're like in people's houses, like doorstops to keep the door open, or a gate on the pillars of gates, you know, things like this. Or in restaurants, you see them in restaurants quite a lot, you know, at the doorways and stuff on the floor. So things like this we're trying to avoid. Of course, when you see them, you don't go around, you know, go to the restaurant owner and say, I'm not sure what you're doing. So you're just, okay, that's unfortunate what's happening there. So you can't change that. But in your own house, in your own environment, you're so careful. So, yeah. And then the Dharma text, again, you know, the text also, because that's what we use to transform our minds. So again, very precious. So can we treat them with respect? You know, we don't bundle them up in my, like I used to do in the old days, in my rucksack with all my other stuff, you know, And yeah, you wrap them carefully in cloth and you put them high up. And normally the texts are, if you have an altar, are higher than your statues, because those are the ones which will more directly help transform your minds. Okay, so they're even higher than the images or the altar that you have. And actually, yeah, I remember the Dalai Lama saying, I think he's seen some imams, like, because he's met many mosque imam leaders and stuff. So I think he's seen how they treat the Muslims treat their text, the Quran. They wash their hands and stuff. He said, "Wow, it's amazing that something we should adopt is something like this, to have that kind of respect for these teachings." So often you see, the Dalai Lama, the High Lamas, when they bring their texts in all wrapped up in kind of saffron cloth, and they open them up very carefully, and they also, when they put them back very, very carefully and neatly, they wrap them, and they touch them to their heads. You see, respect. So again, I don't see all traditions doing that. You see, all in the Buddhist traditions. I've been to Theravada countries, and here also in France, I've been to kind of one of a Zen center, and so they didn't do that. But of course, you don't go around saying, "Oh, what we're doing is correct." That's their tradition, right? So leave it like that. But from our side, when we see, have that faith, what the Dharma is, how it's going to transform mind, and the Dharma's come from the text. It's very, very precious for us. So let me try and hold it with some respect. Just like when we have this kind of old recipe books from our grandmothers, and it's so precious, this chocolate cake recipe. She, I'll never find it anywhere else. So you keep it very carefully, all sellotaped together. Like that. It's precious to us because we can create something precious with that. This kind of precious chocolate cake no one else can do. So Dharma is like that. We transform our mind. It's so precious. These texts, it shows us how to transform minds. We understand it. We put it into practice. So that's so precious. Then we treat it with great respect. So regarding the Sangha, yeah, so even one member of the Sangha, so kind of what we call the normal Sangha, so anyone who's taken the ordination, the monks and nuns' vows, so even the novice, so in our tradition, novice vows are 36, the fully ordained 253 for the monks, and for the nuns, I think it's 300 and something, like a lot more. So yeah, whoever that monk or nun is, their Sangha, like what we call. So remember, it's not even, we call it conventional Sangha, but they're not even the conventional Sangha, because conventional Sangha are the Arya beings, who've got the true cessation's true paths, whether it's monk, nun, or lay. And the ultimate Sangha is only the Buddha, because the Buddha has gone completely beyond to the end. But anyway, we call the normal Sangha the monks and nuns. But again, for you, it could also be your lay community, lay brothers and sisters, But then, of course, with these monks and nuns, then it's also a bit tricky, because here also, like I had when I was before, it's difficult because we associate the monk nun with the character, the person. And, I don't like that one. He eats a lot of peanut butter. He's got a lot of attachment. Can't be with Sangha. So we have to forget, all that. We just think, no, this Sangha, they've taken the same vows as me. They've taken and they're trying to. Of course, they're not pure. They've got attachment, they've got anger, but they've taken the vows. You respect the vows. You see, that's it. Yeah. So I saw this in some Theravada kind of like when I was in Sri Lanka. I see the monks kind of bowing to each other, especially in terms of ordination. We have it as well, right? So even if you're 1 minute younger in ordination, you have to pay respect to the one who's older. So you may be in the same ordination ceremony, right? And maybe in the ordination ceremony you go up 3 at a time, right? So maybe the first 3 go up, and they could be a few minutes before your group goes. So those 3 are higher than you in terms of ordination. So you have to pay respect. So even when you sit in line for like the ceremonies, pujas, you have to sit after them. Yeah. So it's also when you take the food, you can't take the food before they've taken the food. So all these kind of things are there. And so you must think, well, I don't care. And the thing is, this person, right, who went for ordination before you could be younger in age, right? But that doesn't matter. In terms of ritual, he's older. So you might think, well, I'm not gonna. Well, why should I wait for him to get his food? So you go first. So you can't do that until this. So you respect the vows. You see, he took it before you, and maybe he's got more vows than you, right? So we're paying respect to the vows. So this is interesting. With in Sri Lanka, I've seen with the Sri Lankan monks, they don't have this kind of, oh, I don't like him. Of course, they have that kind of view of this guy's got a little bit of a problem with this and this, or attachment or anger or something, but they don't care about that. When they prostrate to the vows, you see. So here I see in my monastery, I see it's a bit difficult sometimes because people don't have that thing of just the vows. They think, well, this one I don't really like so much, you know. So you kind of you have this kind of little bit of animosity. I find it difficult, you know, to prostrate to that one because I've seen him doing this and this and this, or he's watching a lot of internet, he's watching a lot of films. We don't care about that. We say, well, he's got the vows, and he's got the vows longer than me. So you prostrate to that. So that kind of mind should be there also for you. So as lay sangha, when you see monks and nuns, maybe not visiting your center, but whoever you see, if you're traveling in Asia, you know, they have the vows. Not so much the external behavior, they have the vows, and prostrate to that, you know. So also their robes, you know, but the robes, you know, you see, even a small piece of yellow or red cloth, that should be seen, yeah, represents the Sangha. So normally, like in Tibet, you hear all these stories in Lamrim, yeah, when they find these old bits of robe, the lay people actually take it up and, you know, clean off the dust and put it into a high place, like, you know, like, of course, there they would probably have like little niches and stuff where they put things like little, and they keep them stored. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, so we have to adopt respect in the Buddha images, whatever. Yeah, so statues, like even tankas, paintings, and all kinds of images, because they represent the Buddha himself. Then the Dharma represents the actual speech of the Buddha, and the Sangha, the ones who are trying to emulate and follow in the same path, the footsteps of the Buddha. You try and respect their vows that they've taken, okay, their commitment. Then there's a general advice after having taken refuge. So again, one should rely upon holy beings. So now you've taken that commitment, that engagement to kind of. So what is it? Yeah, when you take the refuge commitment, it's like saying, I trust now in the methods that the Buddha that you gave for me to eliminate all the different levels of suffering. Yeah, suffering to low realms, suffering samsara in general, and of course, we don't say the lesser nirvana is a suffering, but in terms of the minor context, is something we try and avoid because we're trying to go for the higher enlightened state. So we see, you know, that there's something we shouldn't be going for. We're going towards a minor state. So we trust in all the methods he gave us to achieve that fully enlightened goal. So to do that, we need to then listen. Yeah, we to rely on teachers, listen to the Dharma, and then correctly follow the Dharma and practice. So here, you know, this gets where. So where are we? For example, you know, say you know, we become Buddhist. So the Buddha's not here anymore, right? In terms of physically for us, the Buddha came those thousands of years ago. He taught. So in our tradition, the mind is existing, that omniscient mind, because all those lives that he practiced to become enlightened. What's the benefit all sentient beings? So then if he died and passed away, it wasn't benefiting, what would be the point? So in this tradition, we say, well, how are they benefiting? How are they working for us? Right? So here is where we enter into what we call the teacher-disciple relationship. So when you have a teacher, you know, who is actually teaching all these methods exactly as the Buddha himself was around, and you think, well, maybe that's the Buddha's actions working for me, right? So if you made that commitment, if it going from maybe it is to, well, it probably is, because I have a connection. I have a connection with this teacher to be around. I've taken the teachings, so and after some time listening to the teachings and getting more trust in this particular being and saying, I think I will rely on this teacher now. So when that decision is made, it becomes a huge step forward in terms of this teacher-disciple relationship, because then you see whatever merit accumulate is amazingly vast, because now that being represents the Buddha. It's not a statue or a text. It's a living being. You see. Then they say it's almost like the Buddhas have entered into that being's mind. So that being doesn't change. He doesn't suddenly manifest as his golden body. It's just that mind, the Buddha's mind's entered into that being. You see. Then it's almost like the Buddha himself is teaching you. So whatever respect you pay, I don't know, whatever kind of material offerings you make, whatever advice you follow, is following the advice of the Buddha himself. So incredible merit on the path becomes much faster once that connection is made. So until then, it's just like, well, the teacher is nice to listen to. Yeah, it's like you're gathering information like you're doing at university or studying. But then at some point, if you've made that decision, that is the one I'm going to now follow as my teacher. Then it becomes a huge difference. See, then we have this kind of teacher-disciple relationship. And of course, sometimes it's good if the teacher then also makes a decision to accept you as a disciple, because you have to also have qualities as a disciple. They don't take anyone, So then if you have that kind of willingness, this honesty, kind of unbiased mind, kind of this determination to practice, that strong faith, where the teacher accepts you, you accept the teacher, it becomes a very strong bond. And again, sometimes it can't happen. For example, the Dalai Lama, there's no way you can, on Zoom, you click your microphone and say, excuse me, is it okay if you accept me? So that doesn't happen, right? But you imagine he's taking you on, right? That way. Then do you see him as kind of a manifestation of the Buddha, of all the Buddhas, a manifestation of the Buddha. Then whatever advice, when he says, abandon this, try to give up thinking like this, you follow that, it's like following the Buddha's advice. It's an incredible merit you accumulate. So the path is much more strong. So yeah, then, okay, the second one should not let one's senses become excited. Yeah, so this is one of the things, yes, once, especially when you've taken some of the precepts, yeah, like for example, to kill, steal, lie, sexual misconduct, etc. Some of the what we call the lay vows, so the beginning of the individual liberation vows, you're taking it for life. But even if you haven't, because now you see, having taken Dharma into your life, you're trying to say, I'm going to try and be careful with my mind, which means I don't want to follow attachment, I don't want to follow anger, because they ruin my life. Yeah, they don't bring me peace. I'm looking for peace. They're the first taste of peace that we have comes from giving the antidotes and power. So antidotes means impermanence, not following attachment. Seeing whatever we get our minds drawn into, we get sucked into these objects of attachment, and they always disappoint us in the end. Because of what the objects of attachment do is they increase our desire and clinging and craving, and we always get disappointed because it doesn't bring this mental peace in us, which is actually what we're looking for. It just brings a temporary pleasure for us, a sensory pleasure, and then they're gone. And then, like a moth going into a flame, we just get hooked again, and we go straight back into it. Or like they say, like an elephant going into a muddy, a cooling, muddy, how do you say it? Not a swamp, but like a mud pool, because they want to get cool, right? But due to that attachment to this because the sun is so hot, and the skin is getting parched, they go and they get sucked into it because they're so heavy, and the mud pool could be very deep. They die. They get sucked. It's the same. The moths, and they get drawn into the heat. Maybe it's the light, and they get closer and closer and closer, like to a flame, and they die. Or like with the electric ones, they buzz around until they just drop because they get so tired. They drop to the floor because and they can't see. That's what's the cause of their main suffering. Just like us, we get drawn to objects of attachment. In the end, we always like it's get caught in the flames and we burn up, right? And we suffer. So we try now to restrain our minds from following those objects of the senses. So physically we try and actually not. So that's why actually, like when you look at the Sangha members, a lot of us were living in monasteries. Our monasteries aren't situated in the middle of cities, right? We try to stay away from the towns, etc., purposely to try and restrict our senses from the big adverts and the shops and everything else in the streets and everything because it distracts us. Really, it's really. I remember one time I was in Hong Kong, right? Because I was based in New Zealand and I had to get a new visa, and I remember I had to leave New Zealand to go to a country. I can't remember why, but I had to go to another country where I can get a new visa. I ended up being in Hong Kong. That was the nearest place. I ended up being there 3 months. And Hong Kong's crazy place, you know. It's full, when you walk down the high streets, it's full of shops and shopping malls and people everywhere. So I remember going to the small FPMT center there, and the place I was staying in and the city center was like 1.5 hours. I had to take a ferry, walk a long way. I had to go down this huge street like a mall, and I remember thinking, because I'm still, because I was my first year monk, I was still attracted to these different things and shops, and of course like shoes, and monks are crazy about shoes, you know, shoes and socks. Must go and get red socks, red socks, red socks. So of course I said, okay, don't look at the shops. So trying to do what Shantideva said, right? So you try and look like 6 feet ahead of you and just walk. So it really helped. It really helped. I just walked, walked, walked. So you always see people's feet, you know, to just, you get in the ferry. Of course, you look, you know, buy the ferry ticket, everything else, but trying not to look around so much. And it really helps the mind. You're just gonna stay still. You know. There's a story like this in the Buddha's time. Actually, there was one king wanted to have the Dharma in his area, so he wanted to invite one of Buddha's Sangha there to teach. So the Buddha sent one of his monks there, and the king was so happy to have this monk coming, you know, to teach. Then he arranged this amazing spectacle, this show, you know, dancers, you know, music, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, it must be like the carnival, maybe, or like in Brazil, you know, what's it called, the big carnival in the in Rio, you know, oh, this, the floats, you know, half naked people walking around. So monk came and he walked straight through all of this show. And he came to the king and said, "So here I am to help you and your subjects." And the king said, "Oh, great! Did you see the show? Did you like the show?" And he said, "What show? You didn't see the show?" He says, "No, no. How come?" Because then somebody tried to explain, the monks and nuns, they're trying to restrain their minds so they don't get drawn into these sense objects, right? The king was like, "How's that? It's a bit difficult. How's that possible?" Right? So to try and check if this is possible, and this mindfulness thing, he said to one of his ministers, "Okay, you try it, right? I'm going to give you a bowl of oil, full of oil, in the same show, and if you drop, if one drop of this oil goes on the floor, your head gets cut off." So this minister had to walk through the whole show, and he was so mindful of the oil. Of course, nothing happened, right? And the king said, "Oh, so it's possible. You can get actually very mindful." So that's where to kind of train our mind, yeah, to not get drawn into sense pleasures. That's one of our refuge things. Yeah, be careful, because see what happens when we get drawn into our objects of attachment and anger, then afflictions come. Affliction create negative karma, of course. Then we go the consequence of that, you know, when we break our vows, etc. Okay, then one should have a compassionate mind, yeah, towards sentient beings. Again, so this is coming up with the idea of not harming, like the second one of what to abandon. Yeah, so instead of harming, we have compassion now. We have to adopt that as our refuge. Often, like you hear the Dalai Lama saying, you know, when he's asked, "What is it? What's the Buddhist religion about?" He says kindness, basically. Yeah? It's kindness, compassion. That's the heart of the path. And of course, all religions have it. When you think about it, yeah, Islam has it, Hinduism has it, Christianity. All religions. When you think, they also have. Well, I'm not sure Islam has a Sangha community, but they have. You know, Christians have Sangha communities. Hindus have kind of the Sangha communities. You know, ascetics and sadhus. And they're all trying to give up harm, right? So even Islam, actually, the Dalai Lama quite often says he's the sole Buddhist to propagate Islam. He's the only one that goes around saying Islam is by nature a pure religion. When you talk to the real imams, when they look at the Quran and they say, you know, when it says about infidels and these have to be killed, it's talking about the inner afflictions, just like we do. We talk about it in the same way. We talk about fighting the afflictions, you know, overcoming the afflictions. We even call the Buddha the great subduer, the conqueror, who's vanquished all foes. He's talking about that, the inner battle, right? So even in Islam, it's like, you know, imams are saying this holy war, this jihad thing is complete inner process, but people misunderstand, take it to an outer thing. So there is nothing in the Quran saying we have to harm. You see, same with the Christian tradition in the Middle Ages with this big crusade going out to vanquish the foes. Completely mistaken idea of Dharma, right? So the compassionate mind must be there. So how do you do that? We train, meditate. We have to listen how compassion comes about, then train our minds. So again, like we said last time, you see, minds of compassion, when it's trained, it becomes, after a while, effortless. Yeah, it comes more automatically. Yeah, we don't have to put so much energy into it. Yeah, so it's different to like physical feats that we do. Remember we talked about the long jump and the athletes. Every time, or the swimmers, every time they have to go like the 100-meter distance, they have to go on that. They have to get on their blocks, get in that position and sprint off. So with the mind, it's different. When the mind is trained, after a while, it becomes automatic. So we know that by experience. If we have a compassion for one or two, three people in our lives, we just have to expand it a little bit more to some other people, and then train more. Then, of course, towards compassion towards the subjects gets more, but even the strength of the mind can become more by increasing, by becoming more, making a habit of it. It becomes just like we get up in the morning and go for coffee. It's an instinctive habit because we trained in it, right? So now it's compassion. Yeah, we wake up with it. How can I use my life benefiting sentient beings? My life is for benefiting sentient beings. Sometimes Rinpoche is saying like this. Sometimes I heard him say, "You get up, you have a job, you go to work. Why? To benefit those beings, whichever job you're doing. You're not going for your salary or to pay your rent. You're going because I'm to benefit. You're a teacher, you're a nurse, you're a doctor, you're whatever profession you're doing. I'm going to benefit those beings. All the work colleagues you have, I'm going to help these beings. I'm going to help my boss. I'm going to help my boss. Then you get paid. Oh, that's great. It's like a bonus. That's not the main thing. You're going because you want to benefit these beings. Yeah, it's that kind of mindset. My life is for others. So that becomes a habit when the mind is trained. Yeah, that becomes a protection for me. My problems. What am I going to do with my life? Depression, loneliness. It's gone. All gone. Just by this remedy of benefiting of other cherishing. And then. Okay, then eating or drinking, one should first offer to three jewels. Okay, sorry, three sublime ones. Must use three sublime ones. So it's like, it's a bit tricky. Yeah? Why would why? Like, yeah, I got my altar in front of me. I got my water, my plastic flower, because plastic flowers don't fade. My light, but you see, and they're just Buddha images, But somebody might come, like my mum might mock you. It's like, what are you playing with? Why are you offering water? It's like, we play with our toys. Like, people, when kids cook, they cook these imaginary pancakes and give to their friend. And sometimes the imaginary friends, oh, have small pancakes. My mum would think, why is this stuff? It's so childish. But it's cool because it's different in our mind. The Buddha is here. The Buddha image, but it represents Buddha, right? And the Dharma takes it there. So, of course, and they don't need food and drink and stuff like that. It's not for that. But see, in our minds, because the Buddhas are here, the presence is here, we offer to them. So when that becomes a huge, in terms of karma, you see, a huge amount of positive energy is created by that because of what's being offered. You see, you have to go back to what's offering this generosity. So when we're generous to somebody, we give $1 to somebody, we help somebody who's poor, it's fantastic, no? Because if you're generous, you're helping this being, So here, the object is not somebody who's kind of suffering in that way, but a being who's enlightened, who's purified. So that object becomes a very powerful object. Just like if you give some help to your parents or a relative, it's kind of a greater field of merit in terms of, the kindness you receive from the mother or father. If you help them back, the merit is greater. The karma works like this. Why? Don't ask me. It's just the way karma functioning like this, The merit is, and also the harm is also the same. And the harm you give to your mother and father be greater than if you harm someone you don't know. Because the kindness you receive from that being, you see, when you harm that being, the karma is stronger. It's the same with the Buddha. Because of who that being is, the more harm or disrespect you give, the more karma you create in terms of negativity. So huge, right? So now we work on the positive side. So we give. So one way of thinking is, why do we give like this? Of course, it's to create merit, because we need merit, to finish our path. And of course, by giving, generosity, we create new karma. In our future lives, we have new causes for resources and wealth, etc. in our future lives. But that's not the main thing. You see, but one way of thinking is, you look around you, everything you have in this life came from others. The house you're living in, the clothes you're wearing, the shoes you're wearing, whatever you're using, your food came from others. So those resources you have, now that you have a human life, this freedom you have to have these resources, for you to enjoy those resources came. Why? Of course, you can think of this life. Oh well, you know, I have a good job, so I get paid. That money's mine. I can use it how I want. Yes, you can think like that. But where does the money come from? Because you have a job. Where you get a job from? Because you have education. Where did your education come from? Because you had school and university. Where did that come from? Because your parents sent you to school and stuff, or you happen to be born in an area where you had schools and stuff. Where did that come from? Last lives. You practice amazing amounts of generosity where now it's coming that you have this life full of this abundance, right? And we take it for granted, of course. So, where did those last life generosity acts come from? People taught us about generosity, the benefits of generosity. So then who were those people? Probably Buddhas, right? Last life, many connections we have with Buddhas. So now we repay that kind of kindness because we rethink, now I'm giving back. Yeah? So we offer back to the Buddha because of his teaching skills in last lives, we created generosity. And those things now bring fruitioning around us. So now we give. And then we can think, whatever merit that we accumulate from giving to the Buddhas, we can always think, oh, okay, now this merit, amazing. I'm going to dedicate all this merit to also, all myself to finish the path, for myself to have next lives, all my resources I need to practice. Or you can completely selflessly give away. I create this merit. Now all this merit I want to give to all sentient beings who don't have the chance to create merit, who don't even think about creating merit, who don't have the opportunity to be taught how to create merit, who are destitute, who are actually even here right now in their lives, they're creating more and more causes to be in suffering realms. I dedicate the merit to them. Yeah. So here, when you take in the Buddhist precepts, you try and do it every time you eat and drink. Not just like, well, just breakfast and it's finished. Every time you have something, every time you receive something, about to drink, eat, first it came from others' kindness, and also because of me creating generosity in past lives. Now I give again, I give back. And you create new merit, of course, just by that. Yeah? Okay, then also we try and make the physical prostrations to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha every morning and evening. So something, you try and immediately think, you get up, think, wow. So again, you have to cut, you couple it, conjoin it with the idea this life is precious, and death and impermanence. I didn't die. How precious! I still have this life. I still have a method to practice to purify our mind, accumulate merit. Amazing. And you take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, Sangha. And also in the evening, you can dedicate whatever merit you've accumulated. Again, kind of be thankful for the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Amazing, thinking about the qualities of the Buddha being and the Buddha state. And that's what you want to achieve to help all beings. That's where you're going. The Dharma is that main method you want to use in your life. And the Sangha, the beings who are practicing in that way. So then you also ask for their blessings before you sleep. Please bless my night to be restful. And you go to sleep with bodhicitta. May I rest my mind and body to be of benefit to beings tomorrow. If you wake up tomorrow, it's not sure, right? So, may I sleep well. May I wake up tomorrow to benefit all beings. Yeah? So then, although sleeping is kind of what we call a neutral action, it's like a neutral state of mind. Actually, yeah, we can make it positive. By that thought, bodhicitta. I'm now going to take a rest to benefit beings tomorrow, the best way possible. By that, I accumulate merit, and that merit is to finish my path to enlightenment. See, all these normal things we do in our lives, we're eating, drinking, becomes causes for enlightenment, you see. Yeah. And also you can recite the refuge prayer, whether it's in English, or if you want to learn the Tibetan, learn the Tibetan, but try and get the meaning behind it, causal refuge, the beings who achieved enlightenment. Resultant refuge, what you want to achieve, by what? By the accumulation of merits, the wisdom and the merit side, not just like, because actually, I think His Holiness the Lama recently changed that refuge prayer. Sometimes it says, by generosity and other merits, it is by all the accumulation of all merits, including the wisdom side, because we need the wisdom side for Dharmakaya. So, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings through that. See, that method you want to use to benefit beings. So then of course, there's the what we call the normal benefits of going for refuge. So this is also sometimes good to reflect on. If you've taken refuge, you've taken the precepts, and no matter how many years ago, even now, having I don't know, 20-something years ago, sometimes I was because I don't read the benefits so much. I haven't memorized it, so I was trying to read it today. It's really nice actually to think how much merit is accumulated, just by thinking of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. So why? Because it's what they've achieved is beyond our normal kind of Mickey Mouse mind. It's way beyond what we can imagine. The Buddha, he has got rid of every single type of flaw, stain, or affliction. It's just it's mind blowing, because when we meet somebody who's kind of kind and good hearted, already we're kind of, oh, that's amazing. He's so compassionate. And this being is way beyond that. He's gone beyond. It's limitless compassion, not just like for one or two beings. Any being exists. Same amount of compassion, wishing them to be free of suffering and trying to help them. Of course, unless that being has karma to be guided, can't help. Just like the sun coming and warming everything on earth, if that being who's hiding behind the rock can't come out, can't receive teachings, can't receive the blessings. So, but from the Buddha side, he's there to help. Right? So also the Dharma, what the Dharma is, that what the Buddha achieved, what we call the true cessation, that complete elimination of every kind of stain. And then on top of that, a mind which is so powerful, so realized in limitless compassion, limitless love, and limitless patience. Here, in our mind, we have a patience for this and that, and maybe this. That's it. Something else comes up, completely off the wall, So our patience is limited, right? So they are limitless, but whatever happens, completely. So yeah, it's the merit we accumulate by thinking of the three sublime ones. Incredible. So that's when you become actually also in the basis, and when we take the root, that's when you become an inner being, because you're kind of entrusting yourself to the antidotes. I'm going to use that to be of benefit to all beings. That's your inner beast. Because normally we're like, I don't like that one. I don't like that person. I don't like this situation. So we're always looking at all our emotions, disturbance are coming because of other people, other things, outside. So we say, no, that's a condition. The real thing is inside. Yeah. Like, of course, somebody, criticizes you, provokes you. That's the condition. But you get angry because you have a mind of anger. That's why you're angry. It's your fault, You got the seeds of anger still there. So of course anger comes up, So if you pacified it, no matter how much the guy provokes you, you're okay, you're cool. So that's the thing, we're an inner being now. We're looking inside for our real peace. Then also one becomes the basis for other vows. And now you become like the main, the first step. Because you're going for the Buddha Dharma Sangha. What does it represent? It's going to what we call it Pratimoksha vows in the Sanskrit. It's called the individual liberation vows. What's individual liberation? We're trying to go towards our own peace. Yeah? Then of course we see the limits of that. Yeah? We take the Bodhisattva vows. And then further we say, well, I want to go faster still, tantric vows. So then all these commitments and pledges we take knowingly, being aware what they mean. They're not imposed on us. We want to take them, right? So that's why you have to read them. You have to know what they are. Bodhisattva tantric vows, we're actually allowed to kind of read and find out what they are. The individual liberation vows for the especially monks and us, technically speaking, we're not allowed to read. We're supposed to kind of have this faith. The Buddha gave it as a method for us to pacify our minds. We'll take it, no matter what it means. And so Unfortunately, what it sometimes means is some people take it and they realize the small print. Oh, and then they find it difficult because they think, oh, I didn't know we had to. I didn't know we couldn't do that, and this and this and this and this. You know. So sometimes, like my geshe here, my abbot here, he's been here 20, same as me, 20 something years, 21 years now. So he says, well, actually, technically speaking, the monks are not supposed to read, until they take the ordination. But maybe for you guys, it could be possible to read what they are before you get yourself into this mess, because he's seen so many people give up. You see, so you think, well, it's just kind of a shame. But you see, then there's a more orthodox view, like, okay, but at least they kept the vows before they gave up quite purely. Then it doesn't matter, you know. So he's going a little bit more kind of, okay, maybe it's good for some people to read them because they know what they're getting themselves into. You see, with the bodhisattva vows you can, you see, because they're really, see, the individual liberation vows, like, what we call the pratimoksha vows, is more to kind of subdue our gross speech and physical actions. Bodhisattva vows are a lot more to do with the actual mind, the mental attitude. So it's more hard to keep actually, because to give up sentient beings is one of the major infractions, right? And that's hard. You've taken the vows to have kind of cherish every living being. So, well, even that one, oh my god, I'm not sure about. So that's why you have to have that mind. I'm going to do it, no matter how hard it is, how difficult people are. I will do it. So you're allowed to read the vows. So yeah, so refuge is a basis, yeah. Because I'm saying, the Buddha gave all these different levels of vows. You see, so I'm taking my refuge in that, the being who gave all these methods. That's the basis, right? So then it also reduces and exhausts the obscurations due to previously accumulated karma. So again, it's due to merit, and due to powerful merit. Yeah, this powerful merit of having gone for refuge, it starts to purify our negative karma that we accumulated. Yeah. The same like the fourth one accumulates a vast amount of merit. Yeah, just because of what the three jewels, three sublime ones represent. It's inconceivable who these beings are. The real Arya Sangha, what they've realized is the absence of self directly. It's kind of earth. They say even conceptually, if you have a very good understanding how the as self doesn't exist, it kind of shakes you. It really shakes you because everything you believed in so far has been false. It's like it's like finding out your partner's been cheating on you. Everything he says, you don't believe. Everything he or she said, you don't believe anymore because it's like, oh my, it transforms your mind. So everything suddenly see that the self that you believed in and everything you believed outside to be true from their own side, all like an illusion, right? Then that's the conceptual mind. So now this being has seen it directly for the first time, the mental consciousness directly, without any kind of mental images, seeing it. That's really mind blowing. So that's inconceivable. That's why I say it's that. So when you think about these beings and what they've achieved, the merit is quite incredible. Really incredible. That's why you have to know. What's emptiness, what's the self that got rid of. How do they get to it? So we have to know it. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. We talk the Dharma and the real Sangha, etc. So we accumulate a lot of merit, and then so one does not fall into bad migration. So again, because of this amazing amount of merit, and then kind of the purification that can take place, especially if the refuge is heartfelt and deep, it can purify a lot of negative karma. That will take you to bad migrations, you see. So that can help. It's interesting, yeah, because there's one story given in Lam Rim where there was this god. So some of the gods, you see, what we call the Desiram gods, they have this very, very long lifespans, amazing, abundance of wealth and sense enjoyments. And eventually, as the karma finishes, I think they have like a 1 week or 10-day gap before they fall in back from those realms. So those 10 days is supposed to see even worse suffering for them than it is for us in the human realm. On all these years we have been getting old, getting sick, and those 10 days, because the other gods around them who they've been playing with and having great fun, they realize this being is about to leave, and they go, See, all this being as God was full of light and natural perfume. You don't need Chanel and all this kind of all natural perfume. You look so beautiful. All your complexion fades. The light disappears from your body. All the flower garlands, jewelry drop off. And then you have a little bit of clairvoyance, and you know where you're going to go. So in the Lama story, it says one God could see he was going to be a pig next life. He had incredible fear. Imagine being a god all these years and you're going to a pig. So he was looking for refuge. What can help me get out of this rebirth? There's somebody. I think one of the gods said you have to take refuge. In what? In the Buddha Dharma Sangha. It's okay. I'll do that. So I hope the God knew what the Buddha Dharma Sangha is. So he must have had some teaching on this. Okay, then I take refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha. And due to that, just due to that strong faith in help me, the Buddha Dharma Sangha, thinking of the inconceivable qualities of the Buddha Dharma Sangha, he avoided that rebirth and instead was born into a realm higher, another gold realm even higher. So I guess it must have also triggered some positive karma. So it could be just a merit, have deep heartfelt refuge. You see, I wonder how many of us really have it when it comes to the crunch, like say you're you're about to have an accident. How many of us really, Buddha Dhamma Sangha, help protect me, or Tara or something, or say the mantra of Chinrizi, like that. Just come. I wonder how many we just think, oh my God, oh no, not me, that kind of mind. We're like, oh poor me, I'm going to finish, like. So that, if we have real strong refuge, that's where it would go at that time of crisis, crunch. Yeah, so that kind of merit, I think, will really help. Yeah, well, and then also because of that strong merit, it can purify a lot of our negative karma that might take us to those lower realms. You see, that's why sometimes at death time, you see, especially with some of these Buddhists, people, lamas or monks, they come and say prayers and stuff to remind the person of refuge. You see, to recollect again. Unfortunately, some of us, if we die, we're probably in a very bad state, full of morphine, full of pain and stuff like that. So we haven't got much time to think about refuge. But if we have really strong refuge, even in those times, that's what's going to help us. You see, because I think Charmaine mentioned the other day, last time, how does thinking about the guru, the teacher, take you? So the same, yeah, because for us, the teacher is the Buddha. See, the Buddha Dharma Sangha. The teacher represents Buddha Dharma Sangha, right? So that way you protect in the same way. You think, the teacher, please help. So of course, then one is not harmed by obstacles and either human and non-human. So again, there's many stories in the Lamrim about this, but just by having taken refuge. Yeah? So again, it's all about the power of merit. You see, because your mind is so powerful, so positive. Especially non-human, of course, could mean animals, but there's also kind of in the Buddhist context, spirits. So some of these spirits, you see, they're a little bit mischievous, right? And they especially pick on people who are weak-minded. Someone who's a bit low, depressed, get a bit of paranoia. Then they feed on those beings, you see, and it could even take them into the depression getting stronger, and even to take their lives. You see, sometimes Rinpoche talks about suicide and stuff, which can be caused by spirit harm, because the spirits make the person think, yeah, you're rubbish, you're no good, you're no use to anybody. Yeah, forget it, end the life. See? So the person starts to believe in it, starts to believe in these thoughts, and that is them. And say, yes, they're useless, and then gone. You see, so that's why if you have this strong self-confidence, like actually, it's like a pride. Here, no pride. Normally, something we have to give up. Yeah, normally something we're trying to the afflicted pride. Yeah, because it's like an exaggerated idea of our qualities and our capabilities. So here, sometimes it's a pride of I can do it. I have a mind that knows what what my negative traits are, my habits, and now I know a method to overcome them, and I can do it. I have the power to do it. You give yourself, you empower yourself to say, I can use those antidotes. So some of those antidotes you already have to an extent, you increase it by meditation, empowering yourself, get that mind stronger. Then it gives you this trust. I can do it. I can actually get rid of all these negative traits. So that's kind of pride over the afflictions. I can do it. And also, even see the Buddhist attitude. It looks a bit presumptuous. It's like, well, you want to free all sentient beings? Who do you think you are? It's a mindset. I can do it. Why? Because I know the cause is for enlightenment. It's just a matter of putting joyous effort, actually. Yeah. So actually, one of the six perfections is this enthusiasm in virtue. Yeah. So you say, I can do it. Why? Because I know the methods are possible. I know the methods can be trained in. Of course, it's going to take lifetimes. It will take lifetimes, and I don't mind because the goal is so incredible to benefit these beings. I'm going to do it. See, that kind of mind must be there. I remember sometimes when I used to go to Sri Lanka, and you talk a little bit about the monks obviously see all this. They say, well, what are you dressed up and all that for? Oh, it's from the Tibetan tradition, Mahayana tradition. They go, oh, so you mean you're on the Bodhisattva path? I go, yeah. And they kind of for them it's like a joke because they think, are you serious? You're gonna practice all these lives to become. I mean, that's a hell of a trip. They say, yeah, sure. For them, it's like because it's like because they take it so seriously because it's a huge many lives of merit accumulated to get to this goal, and they see individual liberation. It's a lot faster. A few lives, concentration, ethics, wisdom. Purify yourself. You're out. They go, well, so they kind of think, well, you're a bit kind of you're a bit proud, kind of proud. Who do you think you are to go for the Buddhism? Was it well, sorry, but I think it's possible. Everybody has it. It's just a matter of taming our minds and going for it. So, so you have to have this kind of a self confidence, yeah. So when that's there, especially now, that especially when the inner refuge is there, nothing can harm you. Basically, yeah? You have all the power in patience, in loving kindness, compassion. You entrust your mind in those; they protect you. So then people can't really harm you. Yeah? So I remember one of my teachers in Sri Lanka who was doing a lot of retreat in the forest. He said when he was in the forest, nothing attacked him. I said, it's a bit weird. Not even mosquitoes came. I said, that's so. I think because he was doing what they call the metta practice, loving kindness, constantly focusing on metta. Yeah, so they don't have like we have loving kindness and well, we all beings of happiness, the cause of happiness, and may I take it upon myself to lead them into that and into enlightenment. So they haven't got that. They have that responsibility, but they wish. They have the wish. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness, and they leave it like that. So just that wish is already enough. That beings don't endanger your life. You see, they would say even snakes will come around, but they wouldn't harm you because they don't feel a fear from you because you have this loving kindness and compassion. You see. So of course, I think many people like who work in the forest and stuff, they also feel this, when they walk around, and they don't have this idea of giving danger, giving harm to others. They don't get harmed back. Actually, they can live at peace with beings around them. Okay, so that's that. Then one attains everything one wishes for again because of merit, yeah, because of such a strong positive merit. So again, also because you start to practice ethics, you start to avoid the 10 non-virtues, so everything comes automatically. And then of course one attains Buddhahood swiftly again because of the merit and the purification of all your negativities. Yeah, it comes. Of course, I mean, just taking refuge of that, then you have to do the practice. You have to put the methods into your mind. Yeah. Okay. So then, yeah, that's basically in terms of when you've taken the refuge vows and you actually kind of become Buddhist. Yeah, that's the criteria. Right? That's when you actually become what we call an inner being. Then you have to be careful with your behavior. For example, the mornings you do the prostrations, you do the refuge prayer. Throughout the day, as you go around your activities, you're careful with your speech, your actions, and then and also if you're taking the lay vows, be extremely careful who you hang out with, where you go. The senses don't get too impaired with the sense objects because you're trying to give up certain things. Then it's like that. Okay, so that's a little bit of Yeah, it's about the refuge precept. So maybe people have some questions, a few questions we can take before we end. Some people have some. Trisha Hadno, Manuel, Nancy Sovaya.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a question. I've never taken vows, and I think this weekend they're giving the Mahayana precepts. So,
Mm.
so that would be the very first thing before the lay vows, and continue on to the next one.
Actually, no. Actually, the Mahayana lay vows are done with the bodhicitta motivation. So they are bodhisattva, with Buddhist aspiration. So in the Theravada Pali tradition, they also have what's called the 1 day vows, 1 day 8 precept vows taken for 1 day, but they don't have the bodhicitta motivation. So these Mahayana precepts, so even us, the monks and nuns, we can take them because it's done with bodhicitta. You see, when I took my monk's vows, you see, it came with the monk's vows are coming with individual liberation motivation. You see, so even like the 5 lay vows, which I'm not sure you haven't taken yet, they're first to do with individual liberation. But then because when the Mahayana part, you actually take it with also bodhicitta motivation. But the actual ritual is done solely first for one's own liberation. But then because they think, yeah, yes, I know, I'm going for my own peace, but still, you enhance it with bodhicitta, right? But these minor precepts you can take. I'm not sure who's giving it. You can take it, and in that there is a refuge. Yeah, of course, the refuge precepts. Yeah, so of course, I mean, like in Kopan, many people are taking it, although they haven't become Buddhist yet, because it's a kind of a training first. But eventually, you take the refuge precepts, then you actually are more qualified to take the Mahayana precepts as a whole. But you can take it now, and in that precept, you can think you're receiving kind of the refuge. Um, the refuge precepts like we talked about now, but actually you won't get the 5 lay vows, and that's kind of the basis, yeah. But you don't have to take them before you take the minor precepts, not at all. You can take them straight away. But one day, if you want to take the refuge precepts like a ceremony, then you can ask Geshe-Sherab, and also for the lay vows, you can ask for lay vows, and you can take any of the 5. Yeah, I mean, normally in the ceremony they're supposed to give all 5. That's technically how it's supposed to be done. Of course, some people aren't ready for all 5, so you have to think when repeating after the teacher, taking this, this, and this certain vows. Yeah, and then that's for life. And then those also can be renewed. And of course, you can take more as you go along. A few years time, you think I can take another one. You take another one. In the refuge, you can renew all the time. But let's say a different teacher comes, you have another connection with that teacher. You want to take that teacher as your main kind of connection. You can take refuge.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good to take out the behind the priest. Very, very valuable thing. And then after you take with that teacher, you can take any time from the altar at home. You have the same power, same benefit. Rinpoche recommended this quite a lot because it's something that I mean, sorry, as kind of as lay people, it's an easy way of getting a taste of the ethics precepts. Because sometimes we can't keep, all those 8 vows for the rest of our life. We're supposed to keep it for the rest of our lives, but some people can't. Right? So you get a taste for one day, you keep them really purely. Yeah. Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. There was a question somewhere on the screen.
Yeah, it looks like Anthony has a question. Is it helpful if I read it or?
Yeah, read it. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, yes, it's thank you, Venerable Gendun. I've been to Sri Lanka, beautiful island, also born a Christian. I'm currently near Land of Medicine Buddha in California. I met Venerable Steve Monday, and he advised to become a monk and go for refuge as quickly as possible.
Yeah, sure. You must now really, really think about all of samsara. Samsara sucks, basically. You just have to really look at everything. So you have to go from what you experience in this life, what you may experience in future realms. They may be very, very nice, and say no thanks. Really, no thanks. I've had enough. That mind of disgust, like Rinpoche often says that looking at used toilet paper, just say, I wouldn't even look at it. I just don't want any of that. So that mind must be really strong to have those monks' vows in your continuum. That what we call we call it renunciation, but it's not. It's more like a mind that definitely wants to emerge out of all the realms of samsara, go out. That mind must be there. Yeah, oh, great, yeah. Tara Hospice.
I have a question that may be in the same sort of idea. I only took Refuge formally 5 years ago or something like this, and my path has gone very fast. That I've done highest yoga tantra, etc.
Yeah, so it's fast.
Yeah, it's very fast, and I've just trusted that this is what I'm supposed to do. But I find myself often going, I've really been messing all this up. I learned something new and I said, oh, I've been messing it up the whole time. And there's the benefit of having lots of life experience that I can apply the Dharma to in hindsight, but also just, kind of getting lost in that. And so advice about that. And then because of where I am on my path, sometimes it feels like teachers give me conflicting advice and I don't know which to take.
But let's clarify, when you said you've gone like 5 steps, 5 years and it's been fast, and what's happened? So is confusion about what to do, or regrets of what you did, or?
Well, so it's bodhisattva. I mean, I'm in a perpetual state of breaking my bodhisattva.
Oh, right, yes,
and
yes.
not knowing what's happening with Tantra, and am I doing this
right,
okay. etc.
Okay. So what happens is you have to go back to the foundation, right, of refuge, and then go back to the first of ethical conduct. So all the vows you've taken, bodhisattva, Tanti vows, all also to do with ethical conduct. So then you have to think, okay, some of them I can't keep at the moment, okay? But it's better to have taken them, you see, than not to have taken it all, because first, bodhisattva, to meet the Mahana path, incredibly precious. You may not get another chance, unless you make really good imprints. So you've done that. Tantric imprint you've taken already, amazing, because also that, very hard to come by, right? To creating imprint. So it's like you're creating now new imprints. Okay, you may not keep them perfectly, but it's better than nothing, better than not having taken it all. Then you the ones you keep, you say, okay, I can keep that one well. This one is more difficult. And then check why it's difficult. Yeah, is it self-cherishing? Is that why is it difficult? What can I do to improve it? Like that. And then of course you have all the purification practice as well. Rajasava, 35 Buddhas. So of course I can't keep them purely, but it's better than having not take. See the advantage, the benefits again and again. Just like everything else in Lamrim, right? Benefits of refuge, the disadvantage of not having taken refuge, benefits of taking ethical conduct, benefits of abiding in virtuous karma, like that. So, but yeah, with the teachers it's confusing, of course. But then for some you say, okay, I'm not sure. But see, this one I'm trying to stress, yeah. Many teachers you can listen to without having taken the commitment that that's my teacher. Then you don't have to follow everything they say. You take it because that's their point of view. That's how they see it. Yeah, they may practice in that way, but it doesn't mean you have to practice that way, right? So when you make that connection, that's when you put your fingers in the electric socket. Yeah, that's when you either get frazzled or you light up, basically. Yeah. So that's when you make that decision. Then if that person says, do this, then okay, I think that makes sense. I'm going to try and do it as best as possible. Then it gets incredible, powerful merit from that. Yeah, and of course you can't do it. You've taken that person as your teacher. You have to make kind of a, how do you say, not a confession so much, but honestly say why you can't do it. I'm not sure I can do that right now. I can't make honest. And if you've done something wrong, of course, then you confess. Say sorry, you told me to do this and I couldn't do it, and you must kind of confess. Because if that's not confessed, especially as your main teacher, then it's quite a big consequence. You see, so it goes with the tantric vows, and you can't see Rinpoche often. Then you have to visualize. That's where all this practice in the Rajasara practice. Say, please, I couldn't do it. This is where I am at the moment. I can't do that. So you have to be honest with yourself. A lot of us, we haven't even got the 4 measurables. So we start from where we are, right? 4 measurables. Well, of course, when you read Rinpoche, you see he's giving Tonglen practice, all these other things. But if you're not there yet, it's difficult to do. Yeah. So you have to be very careful where you are and step by step, get closer to that. Yeah. And then start to think, okay, at least I'm not there, but I can create the imprints towards that way. Just to be honest with it. Yeah, but be careful. Don't make it like a big pressure. Yes, you've taken some of those vows. Then read the commentaries, how they're actually broken. Some of them are very difficult to break, actually, because you need these kind of 4 factors to kind of break them. They're very difficult, So think, how? I haven't done. Okay, I'm near it, but I haven't done it.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, I understand that because I did the same thing actually. Even my Geshe, he said, even Tibetans, we just go straight into like tantra because it's so rare. It's the most best way. It's a powerful way. And then we actually don't know what refuge is yet. We don't know what true cessation means yet. We don't know what wisdom realizing. We don't know what the wisdom realizing selflessness is. If you don't know that, you can't even generate as a deity. See, the deity you rise in comes from the wisdom that realizes emptiness. But that wisdom now, because you have the empowerment of the Lama, has a stronger blessing, and because it's coming from a very subtle mind, right? Not just the ordinary wisdom, which is like a very subtle mind realizing emptiness. So we're not there, but anyway, we try and make the best of what we have. Yeah. So yeah, good. Go back to basics, and that's why the Lama room is very nice. You go back to basics. What is refuge? What's the 4 immeasurables? What's loving kindness? What's real compassion? What's the real compassion? It's talking about every sentient being, not just the ones you prefer. It's every sentient being. We haven't got that properly as a state. We haven't got equanimity, So we work on those things, That becomes a main practice, and then the other things kind of stay like work on as imprints. Okay, the Buddhist vows. Which ones are difficult for me? Which ones can I really increase and keep? Like that. But start to rejoice because of what you've done. It is incredible to meet Rinpoche in this life, to have this initiation. Really, really incredible. Because then you have to compare with people who haven't met Dharma yet, you see. And it's very unfortunate. It's just, and they probably will never in this life, you see, because there's no merit in that way. So it's very. But again, he's not like a pride of, well, yeah, I'm now in the Mahayana and the Vajrayana. I'm in the high yoga vehicle. You don't play your. You don't. Yeah, so you just keep it calm, keep it inside. It's all inner practice. Even the Vajrayana is completely inner practice. I remember Rinpoche often states he would love his Sangha to be like outwardly, like the Pali tradition, Theravada, very subdued, kind of very restrained body and speech. Inwardly, of course, Bodhisattva attitude, concern for every sentient being. Inwardly, practice and high Sangha Tantra, the little secret methods of union of clear light and illusory body, all these things, So he says about, I remember one time actually, when he was in England one time, they went to one forest monastery in by the Thai tradition, and there's one Western monk who's the head of the monastery called Ajahn Sumedho. Ajahn Sumedho was a main disciple of Ajahn Chah. Ajahn Chah was like the big teacher in the 80s. He was like the Lama Yeshe of the Thai tradition at that time. So many Western students were going to him and taking ordination. So Ajahn Sumedho, this Western American monk, was the head of this center it's called Amaravati near London. And Rinpoche was very, very impressed, and he said, I would love if you would come and teach my Sangha members, how to be like this kind of this way of behaving, the kind of the Pali tradition, very restrained, because they keep the ethical conduct so well, very restrained. So outwardly like that, inwardly bodhisattva and tantric, So, yeah. So yeah, I hope that helped everybody. I don't know. So that's our 4 sessions finished. Refuge. So I'm not sure it's recorded, so most of you can go back and watch, what was there and try and. And of course, people teach in different ways. This is my way of teaching. I go here and there. Some people are very methodical, go in many steps, and so listen to different ways. People teach the refuge differently, and of course, some people get inspired, and hopefully, you will take refuge yourself because it's really a new way of life, new way of living.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Very much, and Charmaine gave me the great honor of offering this virtual kata to you.
Kata, thank you very much. I'll accept it. I'll put it back over your head.
Thank you. And to kindly request that you return to Thupten Norbering to
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to do my retreat now, so I'll be in peace for a while. But one day next year, maybe I can come back. Okay.
wonderful. This has been just absolutely wonderful. I know that I speak for everyone who can maybe also
Thank
speak
you.
for themselves before we say goodbye. So thank you so much. I hope to see you
Thank
again.
you, Victor, for your questions. It's very important, actually, asking questions, because me, myself, when I was younger, I was very shy. I'll be embarrassed to ask, I'm not sure. But actually, each question, many people might have the same question, you see. My Geshe often says that here. We're kind of shy about that question. Some people may have not even thought about it, but they say, oh, that's true. I wonder what that means, actually. So it helps a lot of people. You see. The more doubts we clear up, the more conviction we have, the clearer our path becomes, you see. It really helps a lot. So study well, keep asking. We have Geshe share up there. It's amazing, amazing devotion to Rinpoche as well. So you're a fantastic teacher. So I'm a bit embarrassed to be here. I've been a month, but I haven't, I've been like a fly on the wall most of the time. I've studied here and there, but you have some really good practitioners and the FPMT, American nuns as well. It's amazing. So great. Okay.